Well, a newly leaked document reveals that Israel's spy agency threatened South Africa with a massive cyber attack, demanding it put an end to the growing anti-Israel campaign across the country. Documents show South Africa's former finance minister received a cyber threat against the country's banking and financial sectors from, quote, unknown sources in 2012. The hand-delivered letter gave the government only 30 days to crack down on the anti-Israeli campaign known as Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions. The leaks also allege that Tel Aviv planned to appropriate African diamonds as well as uranium, thorium and other radioactive elements used to manufacture nuclear fuel. South African operatives accused Tel Aviv of pursuing, quote, destructive policies in the country following the revelations. Well, to discuss that further, I'm joined with Mr. Stephen D. Kelly, who is a former CIA contractor, and he is joining us live now via Skype from Los Angeles. Mr. Kelly, how do you feel about these latest revelations of essentially Israeli bullying of South Africa over the BDS campaign?
Well, I think that there's a reason why so many countries are involved in this boycott campaign, and of course this is an old story, but the boycott campaign has added up to quite a few $1 billion now, so it is taking effect. But so you have to ask, why is South Africa so important? And I think that's because the original apartheid regime was so close to the Israeli government, and now the new regime in South Africa is certainly very close to the Palestinian cause. And when it comes to authoritarians or authorities on apartheid, certainly South Africa is the expert. So when it comes to pointing the finger at the Israeli regime and calling it an apartheid entity, certainly no one can be a better expert on that than South Africa.
Indeed, and on the topic, of course, of South Africa, it has a lot of minerals, as we mentioned in our report there. Israel's tried to appropriate diamonds as well as uranium, thorium, etc., radioactive elements even. How do you feel about that?
Well, certainly the diamond cartel, the Oppenheimer family, is a very big part of Israel. Is certainly a very big part of that. And also, South Africa historically has played a great role in providing radioactive materials for the Israeli nuclear ambitions. So even though the government has changed in South Africa, clearly Israel intends to maintain those sources, those supplies for the diamonds as well as the radioactive materials, and it seems like it's almost getting to be extortion to keep that flowing.
Indeed, and just briefly, if you can, Mr. Kelly, what does this then mean for the relationship between Israel and African countries, such revelations?
Well, I don't see any sort of improvement whatsoever. I think that the old guard will continue to maintain their monopolies and their economic connections, but I think clearly the government in South Africa will continue to work for the Palestinian cause, and certainly Israel will have to continue to bring pressure on them to keep them from becoming too influential and thwarting their political ideas.
Okay, we'll leave it there at that. But as always, of course, we do appreciate you taking your time out to speak to us. That was Mr. Stephen Kelly, who was speaking to us live from Los Angeles.